I mean, obviously you know how much I am a booty builder at heart. You obviously know how much I love building my non-existent body. In fact, I'm not a booty builder, I'm actually a body builder, which I would say is kind of on a different level, but not superior. We're in a different location today, kind of, not really, but the camera's just in a different place because that's exactly where the camera was when I was streaming on Twitch last night. If you haven't already, follow the Twitch channel down below, linked in the description. You know what to do, don't my face, shout it out. And I couldn't be bothered to move the camera around and figured let's try it, and hopefully it works. Before I start, let me know you actually like this kind of content. 100 likes shows me that you actually tolerate what I'm saying and want to hear more of it, and I shall make more accordingly. So today's video is going to be more of a rant based on a few things I've been seeing recently which have basically triggered me. So that's what we're going to do. I've complained about it many times before, and that's how a lot of these influencers around the fitness industry are basically pushing more BS and more BS and more BS. What I'm seeing now is a lot of outdated nonsense kind of being re-fed into the industry, which has basically led to me making this video. And prime examples of that are people with mass followings such as Courtney Black, who I actually recently spoke about on a podcast I do with my friend. Look for That Fitness podcast on Spotify. Bless. Listen to me talk for half an hour every week on top of this, if you could tolerate that. Probably not, but give it a go. This kind of stemmed an issue from Courtney's video in which she posted about how you shouldn't worry too much about the calories you're burning in your workout all the time, etc, etc, which to some extent I do agree with. Well, to be honest, that's largely dependent on goals. If your goals are to burn calories, you should probably monitor how many calories you're burning quite religiously, because realistically, that's how you're deeming whether the workout is effective or not. And then she spoke about how she essentially supports BMI as an accurate measurement of your health based on your weight and height, etc, etc. As we know, BMI is something that's very outdated and has been outdated for a long time. Granted, for the average person who doesn't necessarily exercise mass amounts and has just a normal amount of muscle mass and whatnot, BMI can be seen as a relatively not awful means of tracking health in regards to your weight versus your height. But realistically, if you do any form of resistance training, you therefore have a bit of muscle, probably. And ultimately, that's going to completely ruin the accuracy of BMI. So for example, my BMI says that I'm at the top end of overweight and has many times said that I'm obese, when I like to think that I'm not, despite the name of TFNL. I'm not actually that NL. So it doesn't really work in that sense. So, and potentially could lead to people worrying about their health because their weight is higher than it should be, when they shouldn't really worry because that weight is there due to extra or additional muscle mass, which I believe wouldn't put you at any greater risk of things such as heart disease, stroke, etc, etc. Whereas the reality is having mass amounts of excess fat could enhance the likelihood of you dealing with heart disease or a stroke, etc. But I went to the doctor, I said this in the podcast, I went to the doctor a few years ago, speak about struggling to gain weight because I was on like 6,000 calories a day and I was maintaining body weight. I figured this is not normal. Got on the scales, did the BMI thing as doctors are trained to do, and her go-to was, well, your BMI says you're obese, perhaps you should consider losing weight, where the reality was my body fat percentage was lower than what they deemed to be expected or healthy, which I think is around 15%, 15 to 18% for males. And that kind of contradicts itself. It says, okay, my BMI is high, so I should lose weight, but my body fat is lower than it should be, so maybe I should gain weight? Or maybe I should lose muscle and gain fat, which is, first of all, not what I'm trying to achieve, and second of all, I don't think that enhances my health whatsoever. And once again, as they do in many cases, influencers are feeding people with information that has triggered me for many moons, and information that we've essentially debunked so many times in previous videos going back years, and that's the isolation of singular heads of muscles, i.e. doing certain movements to isolate the outer chest. First of all, just want to clarify, you can't isolate a singular head of a muscle, because when you're doing a movement, the entire muscle is working to perform that movement. Granted, you can place greater emphasis on certain areas of the muscle, i.e. upper chest, lower chest, pec minor, pec major, but you can't target a single muscle and essentially leave the other muscle there not doing anything. Number two, there is no outer chest. You don't have a muscle for the outer chest, nor do you have a muscle for the inner chest. You have a pec minor being your upper chest and a pec major being your lower chest. And again, that stems from Courtney Black pushing this nonsense, saying you can do such a thing, which you obviously can't. And again, that's kind of solidified further by people like Michie Peachie and Simpson doing the same thing, i.e. speaking about targeting the under booty. I mean, obviously you know how much I am a booty builder at heart. You obviously know how much I love building my non-existent body. In fact, I'm not a booty builder, I'm actually a body builder, which I would say is kind of on a different level, but not superior. Alongside promising that doing certain movements will give you a smaller waist, which realistically isn't going to happen. And it just seems like influencers with huge followings are essentially dumbing down information and promoting that information to their mass following, in addition to promoting false information. This kind of triggers me, and this kind of, as I said, led me to make this video, because people have spent so many years trying to fix a damaged industry just for all of that work to be undone by things like this. It just seems like the influencers in a lot of cases, but not all cases, aren't educating people as they claim to be. They're merely setting them up for failure, which is not going to make anyone feel particularly good about themselves. You're essentially leading them down this path which suggests that they can achieve certain results that they just can't. And when they kind of learn some information, i.e. let's say about targeting the outer chest, you can expect them to probably tell their friends, who will then tell their friends, who will then tell their friends. It kind of snowballs like that. By no means do I think the influencers in question are stupid, like not at all. Clearly, to build a brand, you must know something, because there's a reason people like you, and there's a reason you obviously marketed yourself well enough to get hundreds of thousands, if not millions of followers. I feel like it could be a question, or maybe a byproduct of laziness, being asked to actually educate people, or not being asked to actually look into things further and educate yourself first. In addition to the fact that people want to hear what they want to hear, not what they need to hear. And in this case, I feel like it's very much they're telling people what they want to hear because they've been told similar information many moons ago in magazines, and now they're essentially reinforcing that information because it's already what they believe. You might as well just fuel the fire. These are just assumptions of what I believe to be happening based on what I'm observing. If any of the influencers I've mentioned want to have a chat, want to play COD with me on Twitch, or come on the That Fitness podcast and talk about things, let's go. I'm always game for a chat, I'm always game for a gulag, and I'm always game to learn new things. Again, I know what I'm saying doesn't apply to everybody. I'm merely basing it off a select group of people that I've observed recently. And despite the fact that the 3 influencers I've used as examples are female, I'm not isolating this spread of poor information to a single gender. I'm well aware that influencers of other genders push out equal amounts of BS information. These are merely the examples I chose to use for this video, and they were merely the examples I was shown before anyone else. But that's it, that's the video. If you like the video, 100 likes and I'll make another one. Follow me on Twitch, as you know. Follow the That Fitness podcast, and thank you for tolerating the video.